Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. I still have here with me in the studio the former Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu, and we're focusing on Buhari's first anniversary. Of course, the conversation continues now. Thank you so much, Dr. Kalu, for sticking around. So we've taken a look at the 365 days past. We're taking a look, we want to talk about projection now, forward-looking. What's next? What's next for the economy?
Well, first is you can't tear from the recent past. So we have to clean out whatever are areas that are still a problem. And cleaning out might sound very, very optimistic because we still have major problems, let's face it. And the sooner we recognize those major problems, the sooner we can now project in a way that people can put some money on our projections. The area of security, for instance, I've had to preface my remarks on discussions of this sort by putting the issue of security in the proper context. I think we have to acknowledge the progress that has been made, evidently, compared to what we had in the recent past, in the major security issues. But we still have a lot of security issues. And when we talk about security issues, everybody knows that it is conflict resolution that is the way to go, not necessarily the application of force as such. So that means we need to now calmly identify the underlying basis for security. You know, like you have in the Niger Delta, a lot of issues have been raised. I was very much involved with the Niger Delta technical study, which we did some time ago, and we thought that the issue of how you allocate revenues, allocate oil blocks, how you allocate funds, how you manage the funds that are allocated, these are outstanding issues so that people from that area can really have a feeling that some progress has been irreversibly made in the things that they complain about, infrastructure, governance. Whoever is responsible, the government of the day has to come to grips with dealing with it up front. We can't continue to blame people who get money and they don't use it. Then what does the law do about it?
So do you think there can ever be financial inclusion? Because, you know, there's been so much talk about having financial inclusion, and then with the mention of, you know, the Niger Delta issues and, of course, the issues we're having, of course, in the Northeast, a lot of people are saying that these agitations are coming up because they don't feel like they belong. They don't feel like they're part of this nation that, you know, is supposed to adequately share the resources among all.
Well, you see, this is why I say that if we unduly constrain yourself from accessing resources that will just broaden your degrees of freedom. You see, when you do that, when you optimize your resources, you don't start picking and choosing. Something is called IMF borrowing or World Bank borrowing or ADB borrowing and so on and so forth. You go and amplify your degrees of freedom, and then you can allocate resources to meet your needs to the extent that at any given point in time, this is the maximum you have. But you leave that maximum from your own self-imposed constraints, and then you're having difficulty meeting school requirements, health requirements, simple roads, network, water resources, housing, and then providing credit, because some of these funds come to you at zero interest. So through them, you can actually reduce the overall rate of funds, cost of funds for small, medium, and large scale. So you start from that major macro consideration. That's why they're all interrelated. The whole dynamics says you take the situation that you are faced with. What are the funds available? You maximally combine all the resources available. Then you begin to address your problems. And a nation such as Nigeria, I know no nation has it all. Look at what's happening in Venezuela, for instance. It's poor management. That's a major oil producer. They are really on their knees and being declared almost a failing state. We shouldn't be anywhere near where we are talking about not having financial inclusion. We have all the resources. And with all the resources, the simple term is leverage. Where you have so much resources, you can leverage maybe maximally to 7 to 1 from the cash that you have. That means that as long as the projects are properly identified, we're talking about cleaning up the Niger Delta, having basic infrastructure, having a proper transportation, building up the institutional framework for the kind of things that we say in Dubai. Nigeria can do it. So it is not financial constraint, it is management constraint.
In terms of management now, this government is very, very determined to ensure we diversify this economy. In talking about diversification, who should drive it? How can the public and the private sector, for instance, rally together to ensure that this diversification of the economy actually happens?
Well, you know, on a previous program here, I said we at times talk as if we are reinventing something. In the 60s and 70s, can you believe it? Manufacturing was growing at 16-17% in Nigeria. What you do about diversification essentially is to make sure that infrastructures are available, cost effectively, reliably, credit is available. The private sector, you can give indicative planning. I used, in my other preoccupations in the past, I used to work on economies of Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Japan. I mean, that's where you have diversification based on virtually nothing, not to talk of Nigeria that has a whole country of raw materials, minerals, and so on and so forth. So what I just want to say is that we should not make it sound like we can micromanage diversification. If you look at our import bill and export bill, we have several products. So what you are doing is, the question is not diversification per se. The question is, how do you get all these products that you are producing very little quantities of? How do you increase them? How do you improve the quality? How do you package them for exports? And how do you even package them for internal distribution so that you're expanding domestic demand? So it is not diversification like we are going to reinvent any wheel. How do we produce more of what we're already producing to make them more important? And in that sense, you know, when we glibly talk about agriculture being 40, 50, 60% of GDP, that already is a problem. That shows that we've not been diversifying, because no matter how high agriculture is growing, 7, 8, 9%, the non-agricultural sectors should be growing so much faster that the relative contribution of agriculture will decline. And when that happens, you are diversifying into, you know, like we talk about oil and gas sector, as if oil and gas is just producing this. There's a whole range of products we've not diversified into oil and gas. And all the fibers that we produce, there's a whole industry structured at every single one of those. The constraints are available credit, power, access in terms of roads and transportation, haulage, proper haulage, and of course skills in packaging and processing, you know. That's what we need. It is not a new policy on diversification. It is a re-emphasis on the macro and micro requirements for expanding the multiplicity of goods that we already produce in all parts of the country.
Dr. Kalu, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu is a former Minister of Finance and National Planning, giving us his thoughts there on Buhari's first anniversary. And that's it on today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Harriet Agbenyi. Have a profitable day. Oh, it's a holiday, so enjoy the long weekend. We're right back again tomorrow, doing the same thing again. See you.